Welcome to episode 40 of the Cohesive Home Podcast. I'm Melissa, and I'm joined by my best friend, Kate. And today we are kind of just winging it. We're going to talk about one of our favorite subjects. And you might be able to guess it, and it's not beeswax candles, even though we really like those. It's food.
Oh, yeah.
We really like food. And we have a lot of opinions about it. But it's all fun. This is going to be a great episode. And so, yeah, Kate, do you just kind of want to start by maybe giving our listeners a little bit of a background to our, it's so funny to say this, our food journey.
Yeah, I think it's hilarious that we are both so obsessed with food. I don't know if it's unhealthy that we're so obsessed with healthy eating, but this is something that Melissa and I talk about a lot. And we've tried to restrain ourselves because we don't know if everyone out there listening is as into it as we are. Are you? You listening? You into it?
I think if they're still listening, it's a yes.
Oh, yeah. So I would say that was probably one of the key pieces of our early friendship was talking food and how we were feeding our families at the time, and which is like somewhat different from now.
I would say drastically different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think, so that was 4 years ago when we met. And at the time, I was very much eating a paleo diet with a little Weston Price sprinkled in. If you don't know what those mean, it's totally okay. It just means that I was eating meat and fruits and vegetables.
High fat.
Yeah, a high fat, high protein diet.
Yeah.
And you were kind of similar, right?
Yeah, that was basically same. It was funny because I was learning a lot about food at the time that you and I met.
Yeah.
I was deep into like everything was organic, and that was kind of my gateway. And
Gateway
then
drug.
My gateway drug was the word organic. I loved it.
Right?
I was like, this new word,
so
what is this? It was awesome. So it kind of introduced me to a new way of eating. And, as a lot of you listening, if you have children, once you have kids, you're hyper aware of the food that you're putting on the plate, more than likely. Whether you choose to acknowledge it or not, you're aware of it. And so I was aware of the organicness of my food. And then I started getting into, the Sally Fallon, which is Weston A. Price, eating basically, from that style of cooking, very, preparing your food. But then I was also paleo, so I was, had just recently gone gluten-free before we met, and for real reasons, not because I thought it was cool, because I really was having a reaction to gluten or wheat or something. And then, kind of incorporated the paleo type diet. So I'm saying a lot, but we were eating basically the same.
Right. And that was around the time that I had my oldest tested for food intolerances. And I know we've talked about this in other episodes, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but for health reasons, I had to take a lot of things out of her diet. And again, some of you listening may have experienced this with your kids as well. It's like always a shock. You're like, oh my gosh, you can't have, these 20 things that we've been feeding you all the time. What are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? It was such a blessing because it totally changed our diets. I mean, I would say at the time we were eating pretty healthy, but it completely took it up a notch. And so that's when we went gluten-free and we were grain-free, which is like a little bit of a difference. And so I would say we have pretty much eaten that way consistently up until my pregnancy this last year. And then that was when it all changed.
Yeah. And that's when I went down the rabbit hole of Netflix.
Oh, girl. Yes.
It's bad. It's so bad. Anyway,
It's
so
so
okay, yeah,
bad, but
so
it's so good.
it is so good. Well, why don't you tell everybody then, yeah, what happened during your pregnancy? Because obviously I know, but they don't.
What, you mean like we talk every day about everything?
Maybe.
Yeah, so I was all hunky dory my whole pregnancy, eating the way I always had. And my first two pregnancies, I ate paleo. So, kind of like how I described early on in this episode. And then I'm telling you guys, I hit a wall about my end of my second trimester. And I could not stand to look at a piece of meat.
Well,
No,
I
like,
remember that feeling.
oh
That's why I'm just
gosh.
going, oh God, the pregnancy,
Yeah.
like meat
Yes.
aversion.
And it was
Yeah.
so strong. And I was like, I was kind of upset about it because, you get in a rut of how you always do things. You're like, no, this is how I always do it. And suddenly I couldn't even cook it. And I'm like, sorry, kids, I know you want chicken. And guess what? It makes me want to throw up. So no more chicken. And so,
I remember when that
yeah.
happened, you were really, I wouldn't say a dark place because that's a bit over dramatic, but you were really struggling with a kind of a mindset shift
Yes. Oh,
of like,
gosh,
is
yes.
this okay to not eat meat?
Yeah, I had this total mental block against changing the way that I was eating because I had spent so many years researching food, like a total nerd. And so, I had gotten in this mindset like, nope, I know what's best. And then here is my body like yelling at me.
Yeah.
And so I reluctantly quit eating meat and more or less was eating entirely plant-based because I couldn't do eggs, and I maybe dabbled a little bit with dairy toward the last half of my pregnancy, but really I had a hard time with that as well.
Yeah. So where are you now as far as, because obviously, it's been a while since you've given birth.
Yeah.
Where are you kind of at now with all that? Are you
Oh,
still,
man.
yeah.
That's a good question. So after I gave birth, I tried adding some meat back in, and I really haven't regained an interest in it. And I would say too, like Melissa said, all of those Netflix documentaries really got into my head as well. And we don't have to talk about all the other reasons, but I felt like there were some ethical reasons why I don't feel as comfortable eating meat, and some environmental reasons, and
Yeah.
and it kind of all became part of a bigger picture for me about how I want to feed myself and how I want to feed my kids.
Yeah, and I was right there with you. It was funny because, as you were going through this physical, kind of change with, not wanting to eat it, I started realizing that there was something inconsistent about how my body was feeling while I was consuming, because we were consuming a lot of animal product. I wasn't doing any dairy. I still don't do dairy, just because of like allergy reasons. But we were consuming meat, 2 to 3 times a day, and not thinking twice about it. And so, yeah, it started down the Netflix, hole of these, and I am fully aware that these documentaries are very one-sided. They definitely are. And so I went into it with an open mind. However, they give some good information. So that kind of started Brandon and I both on kind of questioning, like, okay, how much meat are we consuming? How much plant, matter are we consuming?
Yes.
And that is what clicked for me, was, as I'm fine with, if you want to consume meat, great. Like, more power to you. I would hope that it's done in the proper way, grass fed, all of those things. Obviously I know that's not the reality for most of us, not even me. So I'll get to that. But anyway, I just noticed how much plants we were not eating. So we decided to cut it out and just see how we felt. And for me, I actually I can't say I was losing weight, but I was not gaining it. And I wasn't feeling run down, and my energy was more sustained. And whether that was because I took meat out or is because I upped my veg, I don't know. But for me and for my husband, which is a huge deal, because for him to say that he didn't want to do that anymore, like every week when I go grocery shopping, I basically say, okay, so no meat this week. And he says, nope. And it freaks me out.
Wow.
Yeah, he feels great on it. Like he as well, like his energy is more sustained throughout the day at work. So yeah, I mean, the outcome of us decreasing our meat content. So I said I would get to it. We are not vegan. We still consume eggs and dairy. Like my husband and my kids do dairy. And then as far as like cheese, we don't do milk. And then we occasionally eat meat. So like my parents made hamburgers this weekend. We had hamburgers. It's not an ethical thing. I mean, it is. There is a part of me that it is, but I feel like it's much better that I'm eating it once every few weeks and as opposed to. So yeah, that was a very long explanation. I hope that all made sense. And yeah, all that to say, it's a far cry from the diet that we were consuming before.
Actually, I am really glad that you said all that, Melissa, because I guess I don't know. Maybe I didn't realize the extent to, how long you guys had cut out meat.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
I just, kind of like on the back of my mind, I knew that you guys were experimenting with that, but wow, that's really cool. And I'm glad Brandon's been feeling so well.
Oh yeah, it's been great. I literally have not purchased meat in probably, 2 to 3 months.
Whoa.
It's been 3 months at least, possibly 4.
So
It's going on a while.
Okay, so tell me, what have you replaced it with?
So that was a mind shift for me because coming from the paleo world where grains are basically forbidden, and I was under the assumption that, I had adrenal fatigue and I had gluten intolerance. So therefore I have intolerance to all of these other grains. And not saying that that is very, very possible. And there are a lot of people that thrive on that sort of diet with no grains. But I realized that was not me. And so I very reluctantly started now I will say, this is a side note, I still do not do well on white rice. If I just eat it straight, I don't do well on it. If I soak it and I prepare it like overnight, it's okay. But oh gosh, my stomach doesn't feel right if I just eat straight white rice. So stuff like that, it's still weird, I mean, like I have to really watch it, but brown rice, lentils. I had never cooked a lentil in my life.
Oh, they're so good though.
They're so good. I had never, ever. So never eaten them. Did not grow up on them.
Right.
So all these vegan recipes I'm looking up or even vegetarian, I'm like, oh, lentils. Crap, I cannot avoid them any longer. And they're so easy too. That's what's crazy.
Well, and if you're, like, again, for me, I got so hung up on the protein thing, like must have lots of protein, which like I don't even know why. There's not like a ton of scientific evidence for needing a super high protein diet, but it's a mindset. And so it's like, oh, lentils have a lot of protein, split peas have a lot of protein, black beans, right? Like there's great plant-based sources. It's just opening your mind up to these alternatives to having a steak.
Exactly. And it was replacing that how do I say that? The feeling of fullness that you would get with eating meat, with, beans and lentils and all of these rice, all of these other grains that I had never really truly prepared or used in the way. Like now we eat, it's this taco from She Glows. It's like a taco recipe, and she uses walnuts and nutritional yeast and garlic and lentils, and it tastes like taco meat, like all the seasonings. It's amazing. It's so, so good. So anyway, I would like to say one thing though. And I just thought of this while we were talking about the fiber in plants. I think this is one area that I was not taught properly on. It's so funny how, we talk about healing our gut or healing our system in general if we have any type of intolerances. And for the longest time, it was kind of ignored that there's some science behind fiber. And our microbes in our lower intestines, they love fiber. And was I getting enough fiber? And no, because what's fiber in, beans and any legumes, whatever, and plant matter. It's mostly plant matter. So yeah, it's been awesome for me, for my body to finally be getting enough of that nutrient too. Here at Cohesive Home, we recently partnered with CreativeQT.net on our Instagram account to give away 3 of their Stuff and Sit beanbag chairs. They were a huge hit with our community, and so we wanted to actually share with you today a discount that they're going to be doing for Black Friday. If you go onto their website and spend $50, you get the new chore sticks for free. And this is available, again, only at CreativeQT.net. That's Black Friday through Sunday, November 26th.
Yeah, the whole fiber thing was just totally mind-blowing to me. And I listened to a really great... Wait, actually, you told me about the episode. It was a Rich Roll one, right? On fiber.
Yes.
And
yes.
the intestinal health. So we will totally link to that in our show notes because it is super scientific and awesome, great information. Yeah. But yeah, so the fiber information was new to me. And then, like I told you, Melissa, my husband Kirk, he has totally gone off the plant-based deep end.
Would you say he is like vegan?
Oh, dude, he is like...
He wears the t-shirt.
Flag waving, hardcore. I mean, like, and if you know Kirk, it's just mind blowing. I could not have predicted this ever, but as he puts it, all of those years that we were eating a heavy meat-based diet, he could never lose weight, and he felt sluggish. He struggled with sugar. Like super, super sweet tooth. He could not look at any piece of candy, cupcake, cookie, whatever without eating it. And especially because he's always worked in hospitals, and I don't know why. You would think hospitals would have healthy food, but guess what? They don't.
No, they don't.
Yeah. There's always treats. And so now he's lost a bunch of weight, and he's not craving sweet things. Like, he turns things down at work. Like, people offer him candy, and he's like, no thanks. I mean, to me, that is just amazing.
I will say, other than maybe a piece of chocolate, every once in a while, we do like dark chocolate.
Yeah.
I completely agree with that feeling. I think that mine as well has lowered.
Wow.
Yeah. That's
unexpected.
so cool.
Unexpected benefit, right?
Yeah,
and,
it really is.
Another resource that had really kind of got me into this way of thinking and helped me through the shift was the book How Not to Die by Dr. Greger. And I think was it you that has spent some time on his website, nutritionfacts.org?
After you told me about him,
a little bit,
I was on his site, which I promptly got off of, I'll be honest. Because it kind of reminded me of Dr. Mercola, which I love that guy. He does so much good research.
Yeah.
But if I continue, I had to unsubscribe from his emails because
it's overwhelming.
Oh my gosh, yes. Every time I got an email, I thought
arsenic in your rice. You're like, no.
Yes. That's the one that's the one I found on the other guys.
Yeah.
But it's like, if I paid attention to that all the time, I would have to live in a bubble like constantly. I'm like, and I just can't. I just can't. So I have to pick and choose. And this is one way we've chosen, is just through food.
Yeah, which, that is such a good reminder, Melissa. Like, if you're listening and you're hearing us talk about all this, you're like, I can't do that. And it's okay. Like, we all have to pick and choose what works best for our bodies, for our families, and our homes. And so you have to make the decisions that speak to you.
Exactly. It just so happens that Kate and I and our families have kind of gone down the same path. But if we hadn't, and I was still eating a heavy meat diet, like,
I would
we're
still
going
love
to judge
you.
each other. Yeah, you would still love me. Now, Kirk may not.
Right. I know Kirk would probably send you total Bitmojis with, like petting a rabbit, eating a carrot. I don't know. I just totally made that up.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm sure they have like #vegan.
Right.
Like,
right. No, I know.
Bitmojis.
It's so funny because my sister-in-law was like, so when did Kirk become a smug vegan? And I'm like, wait, what? So this is kind of like the running joke right now. But
That is hilarious.
I'm
Which is
proud
like,
of him.
I am too. I mean, it really is. He's like the last person in the world I would ever think would, choose that sort of lifestyle. Well, and we should also say we're strictly talking about food right now. We're not talking about necessarily other life choices. So, I know veganism can encompass a whole lot of other things, but right now we're just talking, I guess, primarily about food, unless I'm wrong. I mean, has Kirk totally embraced the full vegan lifestyle?
No, he definitely hasn't. But, I mean, it's his journey and I'm totally respecting that. So, so who knows? But yeah, I think I've noticed it gaining in popularity online, saying you're plant-based, which is a really, I feel like a very positive term, and saying this is what I am emphasizing rather than this is what I'm refusing.
I completely agree with you. That's why I love saying we're plant-based. So one thing I do want to mention before we wrap this up is the one thing, other than the way we feel, the one major factor that's been a really great surprise to us has been how much less we spend on food. Now, I will say we still spend quite a bit of money on food because we choose to buy organic and basically top of the line of most of the things that we eat. However, if I'm needing to pinch some pennies or, cut on costs somewhere, I can easily do that. And it has been a cheaper option to just buy grains and veg. So that has been an awesome surprise. I don't know if you guys have felt that at all, but
yeah, absolutely. That has been a huge perk of this lifestyle switch. And also, I found that finding beans and grains and rice can be found really at any store.
yes.
And at a variety of price points. So, like if I go to my typical grocery store, I can find, the organic, non-GMO versions, or I can go into a different section, to a different aisle, and find basic giant bags of beans and 5-pound bags of rice. And so I feel like the entry point to this way of eating is a lot lower, but you can make it as specialized and as fancy as you want. So yeah, I definitely appreciate the financial benefit.
Yeah, there's one sad part for me is that I still can't do gluten. So I have to make sure my oats are gluten-free, and there's a couple things that are a little more pricey, but all in all, it is awesome. Just because we don't have that added expense of the meat. So,
and I would say one final perk to this lifestyle is that it really complements zero waste. So we did an episode nearly a year ago about living zero waste and how we were, experimenting with it. And the awesome thing is that plant-based foods can totally be composted. So unless you have a very specialized kind of composter, you can't compost meat and dairy. And so suddenly you find okay, well, if I go to a bulk store and I buy, all of our grains and our rice and things like that in bulk. I could do cloth bags and come home and cook it. My kids don't finish their food. Hey, it's okay. We'll just throw it on the compost. And so it becomes a much more sustainable way of eating and living, right?
Yes. I totally agree. That's actually, Brandon and I had a conversation about that today, about how we've been kind of lax with the zero waste or low waste lifestyle, and how we really do want to start incorporating that more. So we need to do another podcast on that soon.
Yeah, we have definitely gotten lazy about composting, but it is important to me to live in a more sustainable way. So baby steps as my baby is making
Yes.
noise. I know.
Cue,
He woke up from his nap.
Cue the pun. Yeah, that was great. All right. Well, thank you everyone so much for listening to our little ramble about one of our favorite topics. We hope that it's encouraged you and not in any way caused you any grief. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to email us or chat us up on Instagram. We are just open books when it comes to this topic because we just love talking about it so much. So thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.